Good morning, and welcome to the February 1st edition of the OBX Wave Report. February is 1 month closer to summer, and summer is exciting because of warm water and all the stuffs. But you know what? I got out there in the cold January waves, and actually, it wasn't too bad. It was really nice, actually. I got myself an O'Neill Psycho hood. I got myself some Zucker gloves. I got myself some O'Neill booties. And I've still got my old 2, 3 millimeter O'Neill wetsuit. And I just said, F it. And went out yesterday in some beautiful 2 to 4 foot glassy waves. And it was no problem, no problem whatsoever. It was like the observations for today, I'm sorry, for yesterday at Jeanette's Pier where I went surfing were with sea surface temperatures in the range of about 49 degrees Fahrenheit. I went down to the pier. The pier monitor there showed a 52-degree water temperature, so a little bit warmer than like I think the satellite monitor that I've been using. And and I got in the water, and the water right there at the break in the shore break was cold. I mean, of course, you get that initial transition into the water, and that feels cold too. But even so, like paddling back in, I could feel the difference in temperature. So paddling out through the shore break was cold. It felt like just colder water temperatures. I didn't have a thermometer on my suit or anything, but then as I got to the offshore break, the water warmed up, and I don't know how warm it was, but it felt a lot more pleasant. I mean, I got, some sets coming in, on the head. Did a lot of duck diving out there for some of these sets that just kind of popped up, and no problems whatsoever as far as cold water. I mean, it was about a 1 hour surf session, maybe a little longer. Um, and by the end of it, I was feeling a little chilly, but nothing too bad. It was pretty calm though. Worth noting, the air conditions, the winds were calm, just very light winds. So I didn't get that effect of like cold winds blowing across a cold ocean water. And the waters were just, I mean, the waves were 2 to 4 foot, so decent sized waves, but the ocean was just so calm and like as far as like there was no chop, there was nothing like spray blowing in your face or anything like that. So just a beautiful day, great waves, great rides. I'm going to do some reviews of the Lost Rocket Redux again. I mean, I know I've written, I've done a number of reviews on the Lost Rocket already, but I still don't think my review process is complete, even with some surf sessions with the board under my belt. I'm still learning the board. Um, but last session was a lot better. I switched up my fins to a quad configuration because I kind of felt like it was dragging a bit when it came to the paddle end. It might have something to do with the fin size as well. I've got large fins. So I switched it up to a quad configuration, and it was just like turning on a switch. It was like, phew, and now the thing just flies. It's like I, got a wave coming, I do a little pivot, I do a paddle. Paddle's not too hard. I don't even have to like really push it that hard, and I I'm catching the wave, or I'm getting I'm getting slammed. And the waves at Jeanette's are like kind of popping up really quick. So you got to do like a quick pop up, quick transition to stand, um, and do your bottom turn like almost immediately. So I got two wipeouts, just like, because I was lagging a little bit on the pop up, and the wave just, threw me before I could get energy into the turn. But no big deal. The board is just it is very stable. It feels, with that concave, it feels like it really holds the wave. But in addition to that, I can turn it so easy. It's even with a quad. I mean, I know like with a quad, you're more like a rail kind of turn. Um, but even with a quad, it's an easy turning board. So I'm liking it a lot more in the quad configuration. I think at some point I'm going to get some smaller fins, like a medium-sized fin, and then try it in the thruster because I do kind of like the thruster, yeah, the traction you get with the thruster. But right now, I think I'm gonna stick with the quad and catch as many waves as I can because yeah, as a catching machine with a quad configuration, it's a 6 foot one, 39 liter Lost Rocket Redux. Um, yeah, it's a wide version, and it was just amazing. It was amazing the difference between the thruster and the quad. But in any case, yeah, fun surf session yesterday. Today, I know I've kind of gotten into it a little bit with the descriptiveness of my last session, but I'm still kind of buzzing a little bit on it. When you have a fun surf session, and especially like something that I mean, I've never really surfed like I mean, like way back in the day in like high school, I did some winter surfing in the Outer Banks, but it was mainly just like crazy stuff. Like we'd go down for like a big old storm and surf, boilers or something like that. So it's just kind of like a whole nother ball game. This was just a fun winter day surf session with 2 to 4 foot waves. It ended up not being too cold, so I'm just kind of buzzing about it. It was a pretty chill day, nothing too crazy, um, and just beautiful waters. There were dolphins, and it was just fun. It was just a lot of fun. But in any case, I should probably provide you with the wave report for today. So, looking at the NOAA Geo Color Composite right now, and I'm going to go ahead and update this because it's from like an hour or so ago. Um, we've got this big massive clouds here in the southeast, and right now off the Outer Banks, we've got a little low pressure system. Fronts dip down a bit, and we're getting some winds coming off the Atlantic from the north and the northeast from like a high pressure system that's up here over the Great Lakes interacting with a little low offshore. It's nothing really big, but it's nor'easter-ish. In the title, I called it nor'easter light. It's not a big deal when it comes to nor'easters. We do have 20 to 30 mile an hour winds, small craft advisories up. You know, relatively strong winds coming in from the north and northeast, but nothing too crazy. Nothing, too nuts. So it's like nor'easter light. We have kind of nor'easter-ish conditions, but it's not going to stick around. It's it's going to head on offshore. Although we will continue to see this influence where we get these storms developing over the south, near Texas and Louisiana, and heading on up toward us. So that condition is prevailing. But when I say nor'easter, don't get all worked up. It's kind of like a nor'easter light. It's a nor'easter-ish condition. All right, so looking at the infrared satellite shot, we can see the colder cloud tops here and the impulse moving offshore. We're transitioning away from rainy conditions even now. It's going to get less rainy as we go throughout the day. Probably still a bit cloudy with that massive bank of clouds just hanging up over the east, but stormy conditions are going to abate, at least as far as rainfall goes. We're probably going to see windy conditions throughout the day. Here in the Outer Banks, it's worth noting that for the Great Lakes region, most of the snows have kind of moved off. Maybe some snowfall in the northeast in extreme sections, but nothing too crazy. We've got some snows over the mountain regions of the Rockies, particularly the northern regions, and we're starting to get back to the stormy pattern here for the West Coast, particularly for Washington and Oregon and Northern California, as we have a storm lurking offshore. This recent shift to stormier conditions for the West Coast is not yet as intense as what we experienced between mid-December and mid-January. Um, so even though we're getting that shift back to rainy, stormy conditions, that we're not looking at atmospheric rivers plus bomb cyclones or systems that are going to threaten to break all-time records or get like in the top 3 to 5 of all-time records for weather events. I am looking at climate scientist chatter or talk for today, and I'm going to do an episode on climate science talk. So looking at this map, I just want to talk to you briefly about the Colorado River. And there's big drought for the U.S. West. It's a multi-decadal drought. It doesn't mean it never rains. It just means that the conditions are drier than we are used to, and we're getting rainfall deficits when it comes to what's needed to fill up aquifers and things like that. And one of the big aquifers along the Colorado River is Lake Mead, which is in a multi-decadal drought right now, and it's starting to get down to decision time when it comes to water managers. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that when we talk about the climate science chatter. This drier than normal condition for the U.S. West is something that was predicted by climate scientists as a result of human-caused climate change driven by fossil fuel burning, and we are starting to see those impacts that climate scientists warned about for the US West and the US Southwest. I'll get into that later, but it's just worth noting as we look at these satellite shots. Okay, so here in the Outer Banks, I'm looking at the National Weather Service radar just to show you. We've got like some little swatches of rain. Most of the rain's either moved off shore or is actually concentrated to the north and west of us. It's nothing really crazy, just little spats moving on through places like Raleigh, Rocky Mount, Greenville, Virginia Beach, Norfolk area, and then heading on offshore. Maybe a little few drizzly bits down here in Jacksonville, North Carolina, just north and east of Wilmington. Offshore, we've got 2 alerts right now, small craft advisories. And it looks like we've got small craft advisories up and down the coast right now. No gale warnings. So again, nor'easter light. It's nothing too crazy. Just, some winds coming out of the north and northeast at 20 to 30 miles an hour. I'm just going to go ahead and zoom out so you can see the weather that's gathering here over Texas. And this has just been the pattern of late for the past couple of weeks. And so we've got another impulse forming over Texas and Louisiana right now. And looks like there's maybe some, snow expected for the Northeast a little bit. Out west, you got the gale warnings up with the storms coming in off the Atlantic. Nothing too crazy as far as rainfall now, but more storms are coming. So batten down the hatches down there in Seattle and Oregon and Northern California, particularly as another storm starts to head on in. I'll look at some waves out there before we get to the end of the wave report. But right now, let's talk about Outer Banks waves because that's why we're here, right? For all the other things. But okay, so for today at Jeanette's Pier, using our Google Maps for informational purposes, zooming down here to Jeanette's Pier, we find that waves are in the range of 2 to 3 feet. This is a little bit smaller actually than yesterday when I was out there with those nice 2 to 4 foot glassy waves coming in. Waves might kick up a little bit later in the day with those strong northerly and northeasterly winds building a swell from the north. We'll just have to keep an eye on it. Right now, the swell is coming in at 11 seconds with a primary swell, 5 seconds with a secondary. Winds are out of the north-northeast at 26 miles per hour, which is an onshore flow. Air temperatures are cooler. I got out there to pick up my coffee earlier today, and out there at Jeanette's Pier right now, it's around 48 degrees. With the monitor I'm using indicating a 49-degree ocean water temperature, might actually be a little bit warmer there based on my experience. But in any case, cold water conditions, and you're definitely going to need your hoodie, your booties, your gloves, your wetsuit for your cold weather protection. I tested that theory yesterday, so yeah. Weather conditions are cloudy, windy, expected high today around 48. Rain tapering off before noon, and we've already seen most of the rain taper off around here in the Mania region, so it's probably the case down there at the pier as well. All right, heading on down south past Oregon Inlet, not Oregon the state, but Oregon Inlet on the Outer Banks. We're going to head on down to Rodanth or Rodanthe, and we are right now actually Rodanth is experiencing the tallest waves for the Outer Banks that I can find, in the range of 2 to 5 feet. We got a larger swell building with those stronger north and northeasterly winds. The primary swell is coming in at 11 seconds as well, and the secondary swell coming in at 5 seconds. Winds are out of the north, which is mostly cross shore at 28 miles per hour. So very strong cross shore wind there. I say very strong. I mean, it's pretty strong. 28 miles per hour is strong, particularly if you're out in the water. Not yet to near gale force, but definitely kicking up a bit. Right. Air temperatures are 54 degrees down there at Radiant. Ocean water temperature is 55. Rain is expected to taper off through the day. We're expected to see windy conditions, and the high today is predicted to be in the mid 50s. We're about there already right about now. All right, heading on south, we're going to go past the other main east-facing spots, but just with a little note here. Over at Avon, waves are in the range of 2 to 4 feet, and over at Buxton, waves are in the range of 3 to 4 feet. And then taking that right-hand turn as we head on south on Route 12, we're going to go down to Billy Mitchell Airport. Billy Mitchell Airport is surprisingly, I say surprisingly, it's a good break. I mean, it's interesting that Frisco, just right down the beach here, tends to be smaller continuously. Billy Mitchell tends to have 1 foot larger waves, at least. But right now, Billy Mitchell is experiencing 2 to 3 foot waves. I did want to give you guys a south-facing beach for reference. Even though the south-facing beaches are smaller, we are getting some okay waves there at Billy Mitchell in the range of 2 to 3 feet. Primary swell coming in at 11 seconds, secondary swell coming in at 4 seconds. Winds out of the north-northeast at 25 miles per hour. That is offshore here with that south and southeast facing beach. Air temperatures right now at Billy Mitchell in the range of about 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Ocean's much warmer at 61. And weather conditions, rain ending before noon, as is the case with most of the Outer Banks. Right now, most of the rains have ended. It's expected to be windy today and with a high of 54 degrees down there at Billy Mitchell. So that's the wave roundup for today. Now let's talk some weather and climate stuffs. Um, yeah, things that make you go, okay. Look at this Climate Prediction Center forecast for the next 8 to 14 days, showing a pretty considerable dipole between east and west here. Dipole is a variance between hot and cold that is packed relatively closely together. And what is expected to happen for the US East is that temperatures are expected to be rather above normal, particularly for the US Northeast, but also for the US Southeast here, running through the Southeast and into Florida. This does indicate that there's going to be considerably warmer than normal temperatures for the US East in the 8 to 14 day time period. We'll see about it. We'll see how it lines up. But that is very interesting from a weather and climate standpoint. We might have some news about that as we watch these weather systems develop and as we watch how the jet stream sets up. So this is just a little asterisk in our future prognostication engine provided to us by the NOAA organization, the expert organization that is NOAA. And then looking at precipitation outlook, right there in the center of the country where you get that rough boundary line between the hotter air to the east and the cooler air to the west and to the north, you've got this area of more intense expected precipitation. And so far, nothing too crazy, but above normal precipitation worth noting here for the Mississippi River Valley in North Louisiana, heading on into Arkansas and other states along the Mississippi as well. So it's something to watch. Nothing too crazy coming up in the models yet, but definitely something to keep a lookout for. And looking at the storm prediction center, we don't have any major thunderstorms predicted, although looks like we're going to have a few storms fire up over the Gulf Coast region by tomorrow. but nothing too crazy as far as, tornadoes, supercell thunderstorms, or any of that stuff. All right, so heading on down to our global forecast system model map for the lower 48, we've got the mini nor'easter. I like that mini nor'easter. Heading on offshore, and we've got the new area of disturbed weather emerging over Texas with some frozen precipitation over central Texas, which has got to be a nightmare for the traffics in, like, say, for example, the Dallas and Austin region and heading on west. But with a new low pressure system gathering in the Gulf and heading off toward the east, and we've also got the storms lurking off the U.S. west coast. Worth noting that high pressure systems are dominating portions of the central and northern U.S. Let's go ahead and run these models and see what the weather system does. Looks like this particular weather system is kind of getting bottled up here in Texas by the high pressure system to the north. So slow moving, persistent precipitation for East Texas, and then getting into parts of Louisiana, Arkansas. Finally, by Thursday, by tomorrow, the system gets a move on and starts to head on off toward the southeast and U.S. East Coast, but still moving through the Gulf region. Got another impulse here across the north with a little bit of a mini Alberta Clipper kind of thing sweeping through the Great Lakes region and the extreme northeast by Friday. And some storms firing up along the frontal boundary to the south with probably some north and easterly winds coming in by Friday for the Outer Banks region. It's worth noting that the wave models are kicking up the waves quite a bit on Friday, possibly to the 5 to 8 foot range or taller, as we get a storm to the south and a high pressure system to the north and winds coming in off the Atlantic Ocean as we head on into Friday. This model only goes out to the 66 hour. Not sure if I want to go for a long range model. I think I'm going to focus more on the short range. We do have a new storm system running in by Friday to the Pacific region, ushering in a switch back to stormy conditions, but nothing too crazy for Northern California, Washington, and Oregon. We'll have to see how things emerge, but it's not too crazy as yet. And then as we head on into Saturday, high pressure shifts in to the East Coast region. We get milder easterly winds. Might be a good day to go surfing on Saturday. We'll have to keep an eye on it. I'm going to try and surf every other day, so we'll get you a wave report from the beaches every other day. We're still in hybrid mode. I don't have the camera to do the wave reports from the water. We're going to get there though. It's happening. It is getting very exciting. I'm so excited. But yeah, and then so as we get into later in the day on Saturday, high pressure is dominating here for the east. I'm not going to go long range. I know I typically go long range, but we'll take a break from the long range for now. We looked at the Climate Prediction Center 8 to 14 day models, so we're not going to get too nuts. Okay, so let's look at ocean conditions now. We've got those strong winds, and even since I last looked at this model, the waves are kicking up in the near offshore environment in the range of 6 to 6.5 feet with those northerly and northeasterly winds. And you can see the orientation of the swell now coming in from the northeast as well for most of the north-facing beaches. Although here, as we get closer down to Hatteras, the swell is more confused with swell coming in from the east and a swell coming in from the north as well. As we head on into Thursday, the waves calm down a little bit. And actually, tomorrow might be a good day for surfing as well as we get those swells orienting toward, from the east to the west, so more oriented towards shore again in the 3 to 4.5 foot range in the near offshore environment. This kind of wave condition yesterday translated to some beautiful glassy waves. So we'll see how this works out for Thursday, but looking kind of good. Let's look at the winds. I'm just curious. Let's go down to the air. Not too crazy. Let's see. Yeah, so relatively light winds in the range of 10 to 12 miles per hour in this model. Nothing too crazy. So maybe not as beautifully calm as it was yesterday. We'll have to see. But Got a little swirl there, like a little tiny, maybe a low pressure system trying to develop, but nothing too crazy off to the south there. Let's look at pressure. Actually, I'm curious about that. Yeah, nothing really. 1021, that's not even. Yeah, it's just a swirl. It's not really even a low. And there's a little high. Yeah, so I mean the difference between the high and the low, the high pressure system is about what, 1025, and then the low is 1021, 1020. Yeah, so not much of a low, but a little swirl in with the front there. Let's look at the clouds. Yeah, so the front will be continuing to hang overhead. Those are some heavy clouds. Is it expected to rain tomorrow? I don't know. Now I gotta look. uh, Till precipitation. All right, you guys got me into it. So very moist till precipitable water and like 3 hour HPAs. Okay, so yeah, yeah. So calm but rainy, probably glassy tomorrow. Um, so yeah, when you get like a little light rain like this over the waves and like some calm winds and a decent little swell, the waves could get really nice. So probably going to be back out in the water tomorrow at Jeanette's Pier. All right. So let's get back to waves. I know I went on a tangent, but it's fun. Okay. So waves tomorrow looking pretty good to me. Pretty fun. Nothing crazy, 2 to 4 foot, but glassy and rideable probably given the conditions. All right. Heading on into Saturday, waves kick up a bit more with what looks like a stronger northerly wind. And the swell coming in from the north there in the range of 4 to 5 feet by Saturday, but nothing too crazy. Might be still fun and rideable. And then by Sunday, we're getting waves in the range of 5 to 6 feet with a northeasterly flow. Looks like the orientation is coming in off the Atlantic again. I want to look at the winds again. Oh, big old high pressure by, this is Sunday. Yeesh. All right, hold on. Yeah, so nothing actually too crazy as far as wind speed around 14 miles per hour. It's just a big old high pressure that's creating like this huge flow. It just kind of torques the ocean and you're getting those long running swells, which is why you're getting those big waves. Although way out here, winds are pretty strong. This from a high pressure system, well, backside of a front too, but mm, golly, like big old 50-mile-an-hour wind speeds out here off of Maine and Newfoundland and the St. Lawrence estuary. Wow, that is nuts. Okay, let's go back to waves. Now I'm really curious. Here we go. Oh, wow, look at that. Okay, significant wave heights off of the St. Lawrence in the range of 24 feet, and then out here south of Greenland getting up into the 35-foot range. Okay, we'll talk about that later. We're still talking Outer Banks. So Sunday, waves coming in out of the northeast at, ooh, looks like, yeah, 5 to 7 foot in a near offshore environment. And then heading on into Monday, calming down a bit again as the swell orients back toward the east in the looks like 2 to 3, 2 to 4 foot range. So Monday might be another glassy day. This looks calmer to me. Not too calm. Okay, we got the southerly winds coming in off the backside of a high pressure system here. Might be a very warm day. Uh, Winds ranging looks like from 10 to 20 miles per hour out of the south in the near offshore environment. Let's look here closer to the Jeanette's Pier. 10 to 15, so around 15 miles per hour. So not too calm. Might be some decent waves. Looks like these southerly winds might confuse the swell a bit. We'll see. But overall, looks like some fun waves over the next few days. Possibly some bigger waves on Friday. Let's get back to the ocean monitors. And I believe that's it. Yeah, that's it. So going to now and then for Thursday and then into Friday. And I'm just going to advance the model here on Friday. This is what I wanted to show you guys. So the waves do build throughout Friday. And yeah, so we got, looks like, yeah, 7 foot significant wave heights consistent on Friday in the near offshore environment. With some, winds coming out of the north. Yeah, getting stronger there throughout the day on Friday. So that's the reason why you've got those big waves on Friday, you got those strong northerly winds, and yeah, it might be 6, 7, 8 foot near offshore, maybe 4 to 7 foot onshore. We'll have to see. Might be a bigger day on Friday. It looks kind of choppy and rough, but in any case, a good number of days where surf conditions are going to be pretty good here for the Outer Banks, and we got the weather to kick up the waves, but nothing too crazy, and possibly some really fun and glassy days. We're going to get back in the water, and we'll provide you with the informations. All right. I did say we were going to go west, and let's go to now. I'm not going to do forecasts for everyone, but here off the west coast right now, waves are in the range of 4 to 6 feet for the central and northern waters, looks like 1 to 2.5 feet for the southern areas there. I said I wasn't going to advance the mile. Let's advance the mile just a little bit as the storm rolls in over the next couple of days and kicks up some waves here for California, particularly for the northern and western beaches in the range of 6 to central and northern beaches, 6 to 10 feet. And then for the southern beaches, looks like still ranging from 1 to 3 feet for the near offshore waters. And then out here in the North Atlantic, I did want to show you this just gnarly series of systems. Okay, for today, nothing crazy. For tomorrow, we get some roughness, and then boom, big old gnarly system out here south of Iceland with 37-foot significant wave heights. This could be a big event for Ireland on the next day. Oop, let's back this up. I want to see where this goes. Oh, no, it's heading north. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so this storm system heads north into Iceland, and we've got 30-foot, golly, 30-foot significant wave heights off of Iceland for Friday. Yikes. I believe this is Friday. No, this is late Thursday. Okay. But yeah, 30 to 35-foot significant wave heights off of Iceland. I don't know who surfs Iceland, but damn, 30, nearly 30, yeah, 37 foot. So that's a big one. That looks like a bomb potential. And then heading on into Friday, you got this big old beast. I mean, just look at all those, that large area of significant wave heights in the range of nearly 30 feet running from Newfoundland to Iceland as this massive storm just digs in, pulls in this wind from the head of the front from the south running up toward Greenland. And in the peak waves in the shipping lanes out here, close to 40-foot significant wave heights. Looks like a bit of a bomb cyclone out here. Nonetheless, strong storm. Southerly winds howling over the Greenland ice sheet. That could be an interesting temperature issue right there. I'd be curious to see what the climate peoples have to say about that. And then the system just inundating the southeast Greenland and Iceland area. This is just a fascinating kind of storm for Saturday, Sunday into Monday. And then out here off the west coast, you got these big old storms that are firing east of the Aleutians, 42.5-foot significant wave heights. Looks like there might be a swell coming down from the north here into the central Pacific. And then some pretty big significant wave heights off the west coast by Sunday into Monday. So, yep. But for the Outer Banks, we're expected to see some fun waves ranging from 2 to 8 feet over the next 5 days. And, some nice days where we get some possibly glassy conditions as well. We'll be out there reporting for you guys. So thanks for joining me for another session of the OBX Wave Report. And please remember to do everything you can to help save our coastlines, our beautiful coastlines, from the impacts of human-caused climate change driven by fossil fuel burning. Primary issue now being rapidly to deploy clean energy. And what is clean energy? That is your wind, your solar, your electric vehicles, your smart grids. That's the center of gravity. And we're going to talk about that as we talk about climate scientist chatter. We've got to cut global emissions by about half over the course of this decade, and we're not on track to do that. So we need to really ramp it up if we want to save our coastlines from the worst impacts of climate change. I'm going to talk about what the climate scientists are talking about in another episode today. We've got a lot of episodes lined up for you today. So thanks for joining me again, and we're going to get to it.